The alarm began early in the morning for you. Your mother and father gathered around the television with you as a blaring tone rung out. The automated voice holds ultimate authority now.
This is a severe weather alert being broadcasted at the request of the government. At approximately 0700 hours CST, an unusual tropical storm was located 900 miles off the east coast of the United States. The storm is unusual in that it appears to be made of canine appendages and tissue and is rapidly approaching inland with significant turbulence. All residents are advised to stay inside and barricade doors and windows if unable to evacuate within the next 4 hours. The storm's speed has considerable force, and damage inflicted by raining body parts has already been reported as far as Maine, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. Do not approach projectiles while they are still animate. Do not attempt to chase down runaway pets.
A little confused, your parents look out the window. You live in Chicago, and indeed, turbulent rain began to pelt the asphalt. But what were they saying about dogs? What does that have to do with anything?
This is a continuous severe weather alert being broadcasted at the request of the government. At approximately 0740 hours CST, the irregular tropical storm breached inland. The eye of the storm currently is above Pennsylvania, with turbulence extending as far as Chicago and South Carolina. Insulation of all openings, including doors and windows leading into your home, is recommended. Citizens owning any domestic canines are urgently requested to leave them outside. Do not let them in. Ignore any and all vocalizations, intelligible or otherwise.
Your blood turns cold. This has to be a sick joke, right? Someone must have hijacked the broadcast, and during a storm of all things, you don't notice quite yet that the sky outside has darkened and turned a mushy shade of red. Somewhere down the street, a woman faintly shrieks. The rain gets heavier.
This is a continuous severe weather alert being broadcasted at the request of the government. This broadcast will continue until all severely anomalous weather has ceased. Isolate all domestic canines. Do not let them in. Seal every crack leading to the outside. Ignore all vocalizations from outside until the storm has passed. If possible, send loved ones to lower levels of your homes. Do not leave your homes. Do not leave your homes. Do not leave your homes.
Thick, heavy impacts can be heard from outside. Cautiously, your father goes to open the front door to see how bad the storm has become. As he does, you watch in absolute horror as a grimy, red paw somehow worms its way in above the door. It's muddy, with rain and viscera. The bone shines underneath the fur, and the scratching and howling that accompanies the broadcast tone is unbearable. There once was a hunter in the woods who, after a long day of hunting, was in the middle of an immense forest. It was getting dark, and having lost his bearings, he decided to head in one direction until he was clear of the increasingly oppressive foliage. After what seemed like hours, he came across a cabin and a small clearing. Realizing how dark it had grown, he decided to see if he could stay there for the night. He approached and found the door open. Nobody lived there. The hunter flopped down on a single bed. As he looked around inside the cabin, he was surprised to see the walls, adorned by several portraits, all painted in incredible detail. Without exception, they appeared to be staring down at him, their features twisted into looks of hatred and malice. Staring back, he grew increasingly uncomfortable from the hateful faces, making a conceited effort to ignore them. He turned to face the wall, and exhausted but anxious, he fell into a restless sleep. The next morning, the hunter woke up. He turned, blinking in unexpected sunlight. He got up, grabbed his gear, and left. But then he realized something. He turned around and felt an innate sense of shock course through his body. There were no portraits. They were windows. I've been lying down for hours now. It's 5:35 a.m. and there's not much I can do. You know what the worst part about my situation is? I'm in the same room with my parents. They keep looking at me, and I can't help but look back and try not to scream. Their eyes are focused on me, and their mouths are wide open. I can smell the strong scent of blood, and I'm paralyzed with fear. But here's the thing. The second I make any hint that I'm not asleep, I'm completely fucked. I will die, and there's no one here to save me. I've been trying to think of a way out, but the only idea I have is to rush for my bedroom door, run outside the front door, and scream for help, hoping any neighbors hear me. It's risky, but if I stay here, I'll surely die. He's waiting for me to wake up and see his masterpiece. About 3 hours ago, I heard screaming from the other side of my house. I got up and went to check on the noise, and I realized I had to use the restroom. I used the bathroom first, which seemed stupid at the time. I could have been killed right then and there, but that stupid action momentarily saved my life. But I actually did my business and took a peek outside the bathroom. I saw blood on the carpet. I got very worried and ran back to my room and hid under my sheets like a coward. I tried to convince myself to go back to sleep, that this was just some really vivid dream or something. I heard my bedroom door open. Like the horrified child I was, I peeked from under my blankets to see what was going on. I could see a tall, lanky figure dragging my dead parents' corpses into my room. Whatever it wasn't human. It was hairless, with no eyes and no clothing. It walked like a caveman, with its back slouched as it dragged my parents. But this thing was much smarter than any caveman. It knew what it was doing. It propped my dad up on the edge of my bed and made him face me. Then it sat my mother down in the chair and positioned her towards me as well. After that, it started wiping its hands on the wall, staining them with blood. To finish it off, it scribbled a message on the wall that I couldn't read in the darkness. It then positioned itself under my bed, waiting to kill me. And you want to know what the worst part about it is? My eyes have recently adjusted to the darkness, and I can now read the message on the wall. I don't want to look at it again, but I force myself. When I look at it, I see my father and mother's corpses staring at me again. And in between them is the message written on the wall in their blood were the words, "I know you're awake." Boo.